Okay, so it says that we are live. So I'm just waiting for the beam to says that we're actually live. But we just got a brand new like and we're live. Yep, we're live.
Hello, boys and girls.
So let's introduce ourselves. You go first.
Well, I'm Dane Kyle, aka Dane Damarong on YouTube, and I'm a horror filmmaker. I'm a YouTuber where I do a show called Blu-ray Views on a channel called Indie Horror Film Creative, and so I do a lot of talking about the movies I unbox or about film theory or whatever, much of which revolves around horror or around anything strange or bizarre. And of course, the films that I have made thus far have tended to be rather strange and bizarre as much as possible. And so with this show, the idea is to try to, talk about the real, strange, bizarre, possibly supernatural, or just plain strange things that are in this weird and wacky world that we live in. Hence the name Mondo Bizarro.
Awesome. And Lacey says that the audio is good. Yay! Only took 3 years to figure out the audio on this. So my name is Esmeralda James, and I go by many nicknames, but here I go by EJ Darkness, the Darkness, and I'm a filmmaker. I normally do like horror films and supernatural films and some love films with supernatural spins. And I'm a paranormal investigator too. And I've been in a paranormal world about since I was a little kid. So I'm more into the paranormal side than Dane. So I'll be the paranormal left side of the brain, and he'll be the other side of the brain. Um,
Yeah, well, I've seen so much that is strange and bizarre in the world that we can 100% verify. That it's like that's always a good starting point, and then with you having actually done the work of the other side, quite literally, then then that helps balance things out a bit.
Yes, and we just gonna try to talk about all the weird, bizarre, paranormal, scary things in the world. We'll have a subject every week or every 2 weeks. We'll figure out the schedule as we go, and it will be interacted. You'll be able to chat with us at the same time as we are talking, and after we talk to, you can be able to talk to us too.
Yeah, we want this to be interactive. It will not just be us being didactic, even though I'm sure that there will be plenty of that as well. But the idea is we want to talk to you and we want to hear what you have to say. Because this world of ours gives you no shortage of insane things to talk about. I mean, 2020 as a year, it. I think this year alone has proven that beyond a shadow of a doubt that anything that can go wrong will go wrong, and I'm officially convinced at this point that anything can happen.
Yeah, I think the 2020 is the most bizarre, weird, terrifying, horrifying year since I've been alive in this planet.
I've never experienced a stranger year than this. I mean, I thought 2016 was up there just purely because of the insane election cycle, but even that seems like small potatoes in comparison to this year.
Yes. So, some of the subjects that we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about, I don't know, ghosts, spirits, Ouija boards, witches, mediums. Um, you can chip in, I mean, anytime you need to, because I'm going to continue going to this paranormal.
Yeah, well,
Um,
like I'm thinking of like really strange individuals, doomsday cults, weird medical phenomenon, place names that are kind of spooky or like urban legends, people that are, that there's all kinds of weirdness that, it can take on a supernatural feel. And then other people are like, that there's someone, well, like a kind of outsider. Well, he's like a performance artist, but he also has run for president numerous times just to kind of troll the system. His name is Vermin Supreme, and he wears a robe with like a boot on his head. It's like the world is full of people like that, and it's like that's pretty bizarre, as well as like just certain, I think, kind of facts about the world that give us pause, like the fact that we know more about outer space than we do about like the deepest parts of our oceans, and that most of the ocean is unexplored still.
Correct.
That's saying a lot.
Correct. And why people are so addicted to the weird, the bizarre, and the scary, and it's an addiction. I think I have an addiction to horror movies.
Oh, definitely. Well, I mean, Ripley's Believe It or Not wouldn't have existed without that addiction, as well as like, I used to get like the year end book collections of that, as well as like especially the Guinness Book of World Records. I used to get those, and you would have really, really bizarre people, well, recently, but also throughout history. Like you had the world's tallest man. uh I want to say it was Robert Wadlow. I think his last name was Wadlow for sure. He died really young, like in his 20s, because of poor heart troubles. Because he was so tall, his heart had to work overtime to get blood to his legs, which were so long. And then, like, you had the famous woman whose eyes could like bug clean out of her head, pretty much. Or just there are all kinds of extraordinary people or strange things that happened. Another thing is some of those unbelievable historical coincidences that you're like, you would have sworn that they made that up, but no, they were so strange, that they actually happened.
Right. And then you got people that they have weird desires to live like in haunted places or collect haunted houses or collect haunted items. And
Nicolas Cage is one of them, actually. He bought a couple of haunted castles and like a mansion in New Orleans, and then when he got into financial trouble for having spent too much, he had to sell a lot of them. But he would buy up all these haunted places all over the world.
right. And there's not only that, there's people out there that they're just weird, just plain weird.
Oh yeah, I mean there are people like one two brothers, the Collier brothers. That's some historical weirdness right there. Like they didn't come out of their New York brownstone building. They didn't come out of it for decades, and the whenever police tried to get in there, it was like a maze full of trash and like traps and things like that. And they were real people that really existed. Or you know, more contemporary example is someone like Chris Chan, who's still alive, who's the arguably the most documented person in history. Uh, and just in a particularly bizarre individual on top of that. And you've got performance artists, you've got people that weird things like people that are born with six fingers, or
People
the
that are
guy.
born together, attached together.
Yeah, or like you had that one case of the first successful. This was years ago, and they might have done other ones since then. But the guy who had the first successful hand transplant, where it was like from here up, or maybe even a little bit further down, from here up, and it was like the hand of a recently deceased person that got successfully attached. His body took to it, and I think they might have had other cases since then, but yeah, it's like if you've ever seen his picture, it's like he has whatever skin color he has, and then the corpse's hand is like much more pale because, well, it that person died. But it's like all kinds of amazing things that happen every day.
Um, and of course, we're gonna ask our viewers to give us ideas too. They're the ones that have the need to know about the weird and the unique. If not, they wouldn't be listening to us talk.
Oh, definitely. And I mean, we're pretty weird on our own, but I think that they'll
Yes.
want to have us be their little tour guides through this strange and bizarre world, because this world has only continued to give us more and more strange things to talk about. And the scary part to me is that even if nothing really amounts to them, a lot of these strange things that happen, a lot of them go unresolved. Like remember, speaking of election periods, remember in 2016, you remember all the clown sightings that all popped up all of a sudden, and everybody thought, oh, it's going to culminate in some big, like, purge, like, clown massacre or something, or a massacre committed by clowns on Halloween, and nothing happened. And it just, it's like, well, why did that happen? I imagine it was probably a lot of unrelated phenomena that happened to pop up at the same time that people kind of connected the dots, but it just like, but it was so weird, and then it caused such a furor in the media, and then nothing ever came of it. But you're like, well, where did those clowns go? Where did they come from?
No, I agree. I know about that because we had close to us. We had a person that decided to dress up as a clown, which is not the best thing to do around my neighborhood. There are a lot of shotguns owners
Oh, I'm
around here.
sure. I am sure. I mean, especially where you live, it's like, so anybody that looks remotely suspicious, like, beware, because you'll get a shotgun round through your skull.
Right, you have an extra hull that you were not born with.
Oh yeah, and yeah, it's quite something. I mean, not to mention as far as weird things go. I mean, anything that happens like socially, I think that can be pretty strange. Because like it was more than one clown, obviously. So obviously, different people had to get the idea to do that. And I doubt that they were like, again, I don't think they were in coordination with each other, but it's like they're building off of that archetype that we have in our collected unconscious, which the popularization of the evil clown is Stephen King's It, but it existed, before that in some form or fashion, like that anxiety, and yet, nowadays it has culminated into all kinds of manifestations.
Yeah, because I don't like clowns. It's funny enough, you can put me in the house with ghosts, spirits, whatever, and I'll be just fine. You put me next to a clown, and I'll freak out. So, it is for me. I think it was just people that tried to be funny. I think it was one person that tried to be funny, and it just people are weird, so they just decide to copycat that, and it's just starting to think it was gonna be funny, and they started the same way they started. It finished.
Well, I mean, I was a clown for one of my movies, and I remembered loving having the makeup on and kind of looking different, and just you felt like some other more kind of ferocious part of you was coming out. But I'm sure that for those who have seen my clown makeup and anybody that would have been in my immediate vicinity, I'm sure that they would have been scared out of their wits. Um, and there is a very specific psychological reason for why we're afraid of clowns. And whenever we do that formally as an episode, we can talk about it in depth. But there are a couple different factors to it.
Because adult people should
But
not be painting their faces. It makes no sense.
well, there's that, but also, there's the idea of, well, the uncanny valley, like not really knowing if something's fully human or not, even though it may look human or may behave in a human-like fashion. And plus, the fact that it's kind of an evolutionary signal in our brains that says this thing looks like a human, but it isn't, so it could be a dead body, and therefore don't have sex with a dead body. That's, evolutionary-wise, that's built into us.
That's another thing. Why would anybody want to have sex with a dead body?
Oh, that would be a good subject for an episode, all the paraphilias that exist. Some of which get, like, really, really strange. Like, there are people who are turned on by, like, consuming blood, or, like, turned on by vomit, turned on by voyeurism, turned on by amputees, things like that.
There is a case from Ed and Lorraine Warren. I'm totally 100% for them. There is a case of them that it started because there was a guy that were having sexual I don't think he was having sex, but he was having sexual things with dead bodies, and that when he actually passed, his spirit stayed at the house and continued doing evil things to the point that they thought it was a demon, but it was actually a very evil person. Because I always believe if you are evil or mean or a dick when you die, when you're alive, you'll be the same way when you die.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, that's, and correct me if I'm wrong, but in parapsychological theory, that's pretty common, where what you bring into the mortal life, you more or less take with you when you pass on, and that's part of what determines if you do pass on or if you do hang around in some form.
Well, yeah, that's what some people believe, but my beliefs are a little different, more weird, because it's just me.
Well, that's what we're here to talk about. But yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of things, like, there are people who are necrophiles, there are people that are, that have, like, a cannibalism fetish, and that's something that I would love to talk about, is cannibalism, because it's something that fascinates me, because it is so common in world cultures, and historically it's so common, and yet almost never has it been mainstream. Only in, like, very limited cases, or in certain ways, like, there used to be some medicinal powders and things that were created from the remains of mummies, and and people would, like, consume that to supposedly cure ailments. So technically that's cannibalism in some form, but also like true cannibalism in the way we think of it, like, it has been known to exist in almost every culture throughout the world, but very rarely has it been mainstream, only really in, like, isolated tribes, or maybe, like, eat the heart of the conquered enemy or something like that. Something that the king and queen or whatever would do, the chief or something. But I just find that interesting that it's so common, and yet it's never really been mainstream. Even something like, slavery, which is abominable, even something like that, for a lot of, that's as, pervasive throughout various, like, every society, every part of the world has had that at some point, but, it has also been quite mainstream in a lot of those places throughout history and still today, whereas cannibalism, same kind of geographic prevalence, but not really mainstream. So isn't that interesting?
I know you like that because your movies that you have shown me. But anyways, we're talking here, and I have people helping me figure out my sound because they say it's very low. You can hear me, but they can't hear me. So it's gotta be something that while we're talking, I'm playing with the software. So can you guys hear me any better? Just say.
Yeah.
So. Oh, so we got Lacey, we got Terry, we got Kim, we got, let's see, we got Xiomara,
We
we
got a
got
lot of people.
Justin, we got Pablo. Yep. So let's see. So this is gonna be a very weird show. I'm just saying.
Well, aren't all the shows going to be weird? I mean, I think it would be weirder if we had a normal show, you know?
It wouldn't be me and you if it would have been a normal show.
Exactly. But still, that would be pretty weird, comparatively speaking.
Can you imagine if we had a normal show? I think they would send us to the hospital because we might be sick.
Oh, yeah, I mean, which that reminds me, I love watching all those news fail compilations on YouTube because they can be really funny with all the, like, Freudian slips and all the innuendos and the, you know, mistakes that get made and the pratfalls and everything. You know, and it's like a normal like morning news show. It's like that's kind of the exact opposite of this kind of show because that show format is meant to you know, like attract or placate the, you know, soccer mom kind of audience, and this is meant to hopefully push every button that someone like that has and more, but push some buttons that that they didn't even know they had.
Yeah, it's good. Once we go to our second episode, which we gotta figure out what we're gonna do, because it's not that we don't have subjects, it's that we have too many to pick.
Oh yeah, gotta just throw a dart at the wall and, you know, pick that one.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, there are so many that, yeah, I mean, especially as time goes on and as the world gets stranger and stranger, there will never be a shortage of these topics. You know, that's not going to happen.
Right. And this COVID-19 continue, which I really think the COVID-19 is nature saying, you guys stay home so I can, you know, kind of fix myself because they got tired of us being outside,
yeah.
damaging everything. So
Well, for sure, if it's intentional or not from that kind of naturalistic perspective. I mean, we've seen so many in terms of various parts of nature, like sea turtles and certain plants and other environments. You know, we've already seen nature rejuvenating itself all over the place, and part of it is the need to rejuvenate, I'm sure, but also part of it is that human history, human existence, most people don't look at it this way, but they should. Human existence on this planet we've been at war ever since we've existed, and it's a war between us and our immune systems versus infectious agents, you know, viruses and the like. And, you know, so as soon as we get a handle on enough ones that used to be the old plagues, you know, like leprosy or polio, or you know, some of those ones that we have vaccines for now, or, you know, something that maybe it wouldn't kill you today, but it would have killed you before antibiotics. You know, as soon as we get a handle on one of those, then a new virus comes along and gives us some trouble. And I mean, we've been due for a kind of worldwide pandemic for quite some time now, and you know, because we think about the plague, we think about, you know, the Spanish flu or whatever. Think of like some of those ones that were kind of false starts, like West Nile virus and bird flu. Wasn't pig flu? What was it? Forget what it was, but it was you know, all these different diseases that were kind of false starts. That kind of, and a lot of those actually were they actually were a different form of coronavirus, because this particular strain, as we know, is
Right.
COVID-19. That's what it's called, but the other ones were coronaviruses, and I'm pretty sure that the flu is a coronavirus, but it's not this. Uh, Point being that whatever period of history you're in, there's usually a corresponding worldwide pandemic that goes along with it that you have to watch out for. I mean, when AIDS first emerged, nobody knew how it was transmitted or how to stop it really. And I mean, we still haven't fully stopped it, but we've gotten a lot better with our treatments, and we've apparently made the first steps towards a cure for it. It's not, quite there yet, but the first major steps have been made for there to be one, and that's huge. Now, whether or not with this current pandemic, for all we know, it could just follow us around for the rest of our existence on this planet, like the flu or certain other disease, like the common cold. It's like it keeps mutating. That
Right.
for all we know, masks could just be a way of life from now on.
Right. And Lacey said with the swine flu.
Swine flu, that was it. Yeah,
Uh,
I knew it was pig related, but it was it wasn't actually transmitted by pigs, and it didn't originate from pigs, but I knew that it kind of got that unfair association. And it's a little bit like I feel sorry for Corona beer right now, because I haven't seen any sales figures or read any stories, but I'm like, the people that have made a killing during this time have been people that
well,
made toilet paper and hand sanitizer, and I'm like, if you're Corona, you're like, oh shit, why did it have to be called this?
well, when it first started, the Corona beer stock really went down, really bad.
Sure.
But now it's back up. People gotta understand it's not the beer,
Yeah,
but
I mean, as tough as it is to get simple knowledge into people's craniums these days, it doesn't stop them as far as getting their alcohol fix.
right. Like I told everybody, after this virus, half of the population is going to be great chefs. The other one is going to be great bartenders, because
Yeah.
it's that's what's going to happen. But
I
so
mean,
we
for me, the whole anything that's anything that instigates a massive social uh repercussions, social it makes aftershocks and shockwaves throughout society, throughout the world. As bad as it is, whatever it may be, my hope, and that is the same in this particular crisis. My hope is always that there will be enough people that see what happens with whatever crisis. They see what's going on, and they really take stock in what they have, and they're thankful for what they have, and the people that they have in their lives, or how blessed they are, especially relative to other times in history when we didn't have such an interconnected world on the internet, or interconnected hospitals, or all these different medications to treat different diseases and illnesses and things, antibiotics. In centuries past, you got something like coronavirus, you just die, period. There'd be no hope for you. And it's and unfortunately, even still, a lot of people die, but at least they have something of a fighting chance relative to modern medicine and technology. And it's I would hope that with something like this, that people would just be thankful for the fact that we live in the time period that we do. I mean, that's what I was doing when this thing was erupting. I was just taking stock in my various blessings, and I was going through a very, very, very hard time in my life, unrelated to coronavirus, but no doubt negatively impacted by it, like everyone else. But even independently of it, I was going through a hard time. And even then, it was like I was trying to take stock in, trying to count my blessings. And I would hope that there are enough people that in this time and in, 'cause there were a lot of people doing that, like, say, in the wake of 9/11. And that's like the last time I can think of in our recent history that something caused such world changing, like forever altering shockwaves throughout the world. Except that even with 9/11, as tragic as that was a uniquely American event that also had repercussions throughout the rest of the world. Like pretty much everyone, in terms of the virus itself, pretty much everyone in the world, every country, has been affected by it, in the same way, just perhaps not in the same numbers, but that's regarding like how they responded to it. But as far as the ravaging goes, this is like the first time I can think of that something like this has affected the entire world in the same way in terms of the problem, because like even something like the global recession, the Great Recession, even that, that was a global event too, but even that wasn't really quite the same thing. Like, and it didn't affect every single person the same way. Like this has affected every single human being on Earth pretty much, unless you're like an isolated Amazonian tribe or something. It's
Right.
affected
And
everyone's lives the same way.
it's not picking who to. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, tall,
Ex-
short.
exactly.
If you're not taking care of yourself, if you're not social distancing, if you're not taking precautions, you going to get it, in plain and simple.
Exactly, which we've never really had that before. Like, cause like with the Great Recession, like if you didn't have your money in the stock market or in some home that you otherwise couldn't have afforded or whatever, if you didn't have that, then you were probably okay. I mean, you might have been adversely affected in other ways, like with the fact that like gas prices shot up like mad immediately following it. Uh, everybody was affected by that, but like with this, the central cause and effect on everyone is the same, and it's like, and the way in which you catch it is the same. I mean, there are definitely variables, but it's like, it's such that anyone can be affected by it, and it's like that's unprecedented. It really is.
It's because it's 2020. Everybody was scared of the 2000s, and I think they didn't realize that 2020 was going to be the year that it was going to come, and it just turned everything around. And I don't think it's over with. I think there's more to come.
Oh, there's far more to come. I mean, we're only in the. I've heard some debate about whether or not we're in the second wave of corona or if we're still in the midst of the first one. I've heard people calibrate it differently. Either way you want to slice it, I mean, this thing ain't going away anytime soon. I mean, eventually, with all viruses, no matter what, they do eventually run their course objectively. Like they don't necessarily last forever, or at least not in whatever form. If they do last, then they usually mutate. I mean, there's a reason why the flu is still around, of course, but that a new strain pops up every year, and they can usually tell, and they plan ahead and all that stuff. Yeah, but they, generally speaking, they do run their courses naturally after they've reached whatever that infection apex is. And that's really the problem we're seeing in America, is that unlike other governments where they did a much more uniform, more federal job of locking things down sufficiently, like I think it's New Zealand that is corona-free, and I want to say Japan might be corona-free also. Like, I know that Japan did not get it anywhere near as bad as other countries because they already were wearing masks on the trains and everything. So there are ways to certainly reduce that risk, and not doing anywhere near what we've never done ever since this thing started, we haven't done anything remotely close to what we should have been doing, and that's why you're seeing these infection rates go up even higher than they were when this thing first started, because people just don't seem to think it's real, or they don't want to be bothered to wear a mask because yeah, it's stupid. Now, granted, when this thing first started, I didn't wear a mask for a while just because, like, I'm saying, like, in the early days before, infection rates got worse and worse. Part of it was I didn't have one and I was waiting for it that I ordered to arrive. Because, well, again, that was at a time when everything was shut down or when things weren't being delivered, or whatever. So that took a while, but I also just tried to limit my outside time as much as possible anyway. But then, now that I am out and about, like, I wear like a blown gas mask
No, I know. I seen your mask.
with proper filtration, everything. I'm saying for the people at home, I wear like a full blown thing, and it actually does filter the air, because this virus it is circulated through the ACs in the department stores and things, and that's something that people aren't talking about as much as they should, even though that information is out there. But even then, it's like I don't see anywhere near enough people wearing masks like they should.
Do you remember the old days when we all only thing that we have to worry about is the zombies that used to eat the detergent pops, the Florida
Oh,
zombies?
oh yeah, the Tide Pod challenge, yeah.
Yeah, that's the
But I
only thing
mean,
we
well,
had to worry about.
and well, I wouldn't say the only thing, but that was the easily avoidable stupid thing of that time. That was the idiot du jour. And nowadays it's like if you and I'm just gonna state this loud and clear. At this point, after all the information that has been out there, after all the public safety warnings, all the data, all the this and that, if you aren't wearing a mask, if you don't trust what the World Health Organization, you don't trust what everyone has been like, and your neighbor and everything, they've been begging you to just do these simple things. If you've heard all of that and you still aren't willing to do a simple thing like put a little piece of cotton over your mouth to keep yourself and others from getting sick, then I'm sorry, but you deserve everything that is coming your way, and it is. Don't think for a minute that it's not,
My
because I mean
well,
it's not like you weren't warned.
I do have to say that for myself, I have asthma, and I I can only wear the mask for so long before I can't breathe. Like I literally I start
Yeah.
my breathing starts going very low. So I decide not to go places. I go to the grocery store. I do whatever I need to do, and I go home. The less that I have to wear I'm not saying that I don't wear the mask, but the less I have to wear the mask.
Oh
Um,
yeah, and that's perfectly fine. And I mean, you
and
can take it off when you're in the car, which is what I do.
yeah, I
You
can't
know.
stand people that wear the mask inside the car. That makes no sense. But there is some masks out there that comes with a like a valve kind of thing that filters air more coming in, which I have found out that I can wear better. So even for the asthmatic people out there, there are other masks that you can use. You just have to research and pay a little bit more because like the mask that mine was like $22 just for a mask.
Yeah. Well,
But
mine was like 80 something dollars, but I
yeah,
admit
but
that.
you
Well,
should you
mine
should put
was
a
over.
you after this is over, you should put a picture of your mask in the comments so people can see your mask so they can understand that your mask
Oh
comes
well.
from like a video game kind of
Here,
thing.
I can do that, and also just temporarily, I'll show you a picture from my phone right now. But, the thing. So I ordered it. It took a while. The problem is, it took a while to arrive, because
So
again, well, everything took a while to arrive for quite a long time.
so
But
we
I
have
paid like about $80 for it at the time. Let me see if everyone can see that. So
leave it
there it
there for
is.
leave it there for a second. It's not coming through yet. Leave it there for a
Yeah,
second.
sorry. So there I am. As you can
Hold
see,
on.
it,
There we are. Now it's
yep. So as you can see, there is some filtration action on the side there. It's got some cotton and different fibers to help filter the air that comes in. And then there is a little port at the bottom to allow for some carbon dioxide to escape. Not an excessive amount. I mean, probably about as much as would naturally escape through a cloth or cotton mask, like a surgical one, because those things are not airtight by any means. And yeah, those things aren't airtight. But with this one, like, it has a head strap on it, and you can adjust the tightness, and that way, and your face is protected also with the glass. And that way, because yeah, if someone were to like sneeze on you, or if somebody were to, any number of things. I mean, it's good to have your eyes protected too, because I mean, your eyes are very
right.
sensitive to that kind of
So
stuff.
hold on, before we keep going, we have a comment from Kim saying, I find it interesting. Hold on, I can't see. Look, I need glasses. Ah, I lost it. Okay, here they. I found it interesting that the wildfires destroyed the Amazon. Consider it Mother Nature's lugs last year and COVID affected human lugs.
Oh yeah, well
Lugs.
that whole thing with the Amazon and with the Australian wildfires and everything. I mean, it's one of those things where I mean, I think people have probably seen plenty of this to get the idea.
Yes.
And I'll definitely put that in the comments. But uh, yeah, the whole thing with the Amazon fires, the Australian fires, and everything, like, those are, and California, that those have still gone on every now and again. The whole thing with those is like, wildfires are definitely gonna. Those are some of those things that they just kind of happen whenever they happen, and there's not really any like rhyme or reason to them. But they can be quite destructive at the same time. Wildfires are interesting, especially in a forest setting, because while they do destroy trees and they do displace animals from their habitats and everything, when all is said and done, the burned organic matter gets reintroduced into the soil, and it allows for new plants to grow and for new life to begin and everything. So I mean, and that's something that, taking that long term biological view, that as sad and as destructive as wildfires can be in that short term, in the long term it can also be part of that cycle to have new life generate. And that's again, that's something that, if we're taking a kind of Mother Nature strikes back approach to the virus, in some ways it's like, well, and I knew that there was going to be some cataclysmic event, if not several, that was going to be specifically targeting humans, whether it was natural disasters, which I mean, we still see those in greater frequency because of, like, global warming and rising sea levels, contributing to like the more aggressive hurricanes we see every fall during hurricane season. Not only are we seeing those more and more, and also just random bizarre weather patterns, but I think the fact that we had a global pandemic like we've had, which is also partially due to just whatever other nature factors that there are, like eating a exotic animal raw after it's been killed in front of you, which is one of the theories as to where it came from. But like, those do exist, even if the virus didn't come from there. It's like you're going to catch something from that. But it's like obviously stupid things that we shouldn't be doing. It's like, are you so shocked when some horrible super virus comes along and ravages the land? It's like, you shouldn't be irresponsible to yourself, to other species, to your own species,
To the
to the
lamb.
earth. Yeah, to the earth, because the every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and if enough people do enough of the same stupid things for long enough, then that reaction is going to be fierce and it's going to knock you on your ass. And that's what's happening now, is that this is Mother Nature like bitch slapping us over and over again because of how stupid we've been, and to each other and to it. And it's no surprise why we're seeing this in
Right.
the ferocity level that we are. And again, I hope that enough people take enough lessons from this to approach life with a little bit more thankfulness and a little bit more humility than they have been. And if you're too stupid to figure that out, then you're probably too stupid to wear a mask. You'll be
Eh,
therefore more likely to get out of the gene pool.
right. It's I feel like and this is gonna be so mean to me to say, but I feel like this is a way to for the earth to clean itself from those people that
Oh, of
don't
course.
care of the earth. So it's like, okay, here's a way for you to save yourself. Do all this stuff and you won't get it. If you don't do all the stuff, or at least a quarter of the stuff, you will get it, and you will might die, or you might
Yeah.
get something wrong. Then you have your own life in your hands. So if
You only
something
got
happens,
yourself to blame after that
right,
point.
who are you gonna blame? Who are you gonna say you kill me? No. Why? You're gonna tell Mother Nature you kill? No, yourself. You kill your own self. So
Exactly. Well, and
it's
that's why I have no sympathy whatsoever for people that, well, like now in the early days before anybody like knew anything, before we had some kind of a handle on how bad this thing really was going to be and how it progressed and how it was transmitted, all that stuff. In the early days before anyone knew anything, then sure, everybody was still trying to figure things out. At this point, like however long it took, like a month into quarantine or whatever, after that, all bets are off. After all that knowledge is on the public record, easy to find, just talk to somebody, let alone getting on the internet, let alone, all the numerous signs everywhere and all that stuff. And after that point, then it's like, fuck you. You deserve everything that's coming to you. And it is coming to you if you're too stupid to follow basic rules, up to and including the fact that in the particular county of North Carolina where I'm in, Gaston County, there was a Food Lion that's right by where I live, and all statewide, Governor Roy Cooper had instituted that everyone has to wear a mask in public. Which, okay, fine. I mean, for my money, we should have already been doing that. Uh, a lot sooner, or similar measures to keep people safe. We should have been doing that, because I was always of the opinion of put people back to work, sure, but force them to wear masks and wear gloves, or else they'll get arrested, or else they'll get a hefty fine that most people won't want to pay. It's like that's how you save the economy, but also keep people safe. Because people don't want to not be working, and the economy is not sustainable long term that way, and everyone knows that. But people don't need to needlessly die either. But then in Gaston County, despite that order from the governor, so many people walking around, they don't have masks on, and the police don't do a thing because apparently the county sheriff isn't enforcing that law. He's just doesn't care, and it's
the
like,
same over here. It's the same in my county. They will not, because they say they have better things to do. Oh,
well,
okay.
or like, again, not to get too political here, but like the fact that mask wearing has all of a sudden become politicized, that suddenly it's like a measure, like a tool of control or whatever, and it's like it's a piece of cotton in front of your mouth that will keep you and your family, your friends, total strangers, will keep you alive. Why is that so tough to get through your head? Like, we don't freak out about people who have to get driver's licenses to drive, or wear seat belts when they
And
drive,
there's some people out there, they have driver license and they shouldn't be driving.
or they don't wear their seat belts when they're legally required to, and then they wonder why they die or the people who survive wonder why they died in a car accident when the car accidents are dangerous enough with a seatbelt, let alone without one. So yeah, I mean, I'm beyond pissed at the fact that the sheriff of Gaston County just will not enforce the law. And I mean, I've had friends write to Governor Cooper. I'm gonna make some noise about it this weekend because it continues to be bullshit. Private businesses are not follow like
Oh, I
the
agree.
the ones I'm thinking of anyway are not following the law. The good ones, the ones that I go to, they are following the law and they make it like really abundantly clear that they have an occupant capacity that they aren't going to exceed, that everyone has to keep 6 feet away, everybody has to wear a mask, all that stuff that you're supposed to do. Those are the places I go to. The Food Lion that is nearby where I am in Mount Holly, they were not in like just the downtown area. That Food Lion is not abiding by
None of them
the
are.
law,
None
and
of them
it's
are.
like, and if that's the case, then if it PSA time, any business, any place that is not following the law, that is keeping you and your family and your friends and strangers, keeping them alive, keeping them from dying, then boycott that business. I'm just saying it right now. They don't deserve your money. They don't deserve to exist without following a law that is keeping people, innocent people, alive. You know, keeping them from getting sick and dying from this
I
virus
go.
that's just ravaging the land.
I drive about 25 minutes to go to Publix because they keep it super clean. They make people wear masks. They have they count how many people go in and how many people goes out. So I prefer to do that than just, doing stuff like that. And then it's not only that, it's just the situation. And we actually went over our limits, sir. We are like 51 minutes of our 30-minute show.
Oh, it's that's what happens when you get go cooking on a. I mean, because at this point, quite frankly, what is stranger and more Mondo Bizarro about this world than the fucking virus? You
It's
know,
just
like
I
I,
I
I
really
can't think of
think
anything stranger.
I really think that this virus was sent to us to really see who will step up and be a human and who will step down and be a douchebag.
Yeah, who will be
And
selfish and who will be a hero? And I mean, my hats go off to every person that is working, especially like in the early days, the the first responders and the people that really didn't have the luxury of being sent home with furlough or whatever. My hat goes off to those people, and they're rightfully called heroes. I mean, it's up there like with 9/11 with the firefighters and the policemen and all that stuff. It's like those were you know ordinary people doing the groundwork to keep the rest of us keep society functioning. It's like they're the ones who we need to be idolizing and rallying around. And thankfully, we seem to be doing that more or less. I mean, the narrative is kind of off base these days with all the other crazy stuff that's going in addition to coronavirus. But still, it's like I think people are recognizing that it's those people that haven't had the luxury to be able to be sent home for however long with pay or with furlough or with assistance from the government or whatever. It's like that is my hat goes off to them. But it's like there are so many people still that are not doing some things that are as simple as covering your fucking mouth, which you should have been doing anyway. Even virus or no virus, you should at least, be doing what they call the vampire cough. You should be doing that. You shouldn't be like, touching things you don't need to be touching, not washing your hands, not eating food that's prepared correctly, just all the basic stuff that, your mom should have taught you when you were 5. It's like, again, it's like if you're not following basic things like that, you deserve every bad thing that's coming at you, and it is guaranteed to come at you sooner or later. Um, and it's just like, yeah, I mean, I really think that, and here's the thing to kind of tie it into cinema briefly. You look at ever since, well, like the 2000s really with 28 Days Later onward, the 2000s really had this deluge of zombie films that arose. Um, and ever since then, like it kind of migrated then from cinema to TV and web series and video games and stuff. But like once you've seen the deluge of not only zombie films but also just apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic fiction in general ever since the year 2000. So and the fact they've been such hits on a subconscious level, people have, I think, I'm in total agreement with YouTuber Rob Egger, who does great movie reviews and analysis videos and stuff. He called it in his Corona video. He said that he thought that people kind of subconsciously wanted the apocalypse, and I thought that for years because you look at how many apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic movies come out and people consume in huge numbers, not just movies but shows and video games and books and things. You look at how many of those that get consumed in such massive numbers. There has been in our culture, certainly in American culture, I can't say the same for other cultures, but for sure in American society we have had this like unconscious mass death wish for at least 2 decades, and then now that we're getting it, it's like, are you really surprised that you can't be consuming all this stuff en masse and then be so shocked when all of a sudden, when it's prepared, when it happens, that you're not prepared, and you're like, where did this come from? And it's like, well, if it wasn't a virus, it was going to be uncontrolled natural disasters or whatever, because as Dr. Ian Malcolm said, life finds a way, and it does. Life finds a way, and that's what we're seeing now. Is nature is striking back, and it's kicking stupid people in the ass, killing a lot of them, but it's also killing off innocent people that have come in contact with stupid ones who didn't do anything wrong. They just happen to be near them, and that's
They will
why
just
it's
bypass
irritating.
that. We have a question, and I'll let you take that one. Do you have your
Okay.
phone with you?
Yes.
Go ahead and look at it.
Okay. See, I need to see if I can find it.
Just go to our
Sorry.
page.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I've been so busy. I've been so busy sermonizing here that I lose track of time. All right. So let's see here. I see myself as I'm looking for myself, which is very meta, I know. Let's see here. Why can't... There I am. Okay. Told you guys you're weird. Just reading through everything. Sue, people think it's not going to happen to them, so they just do what they want. Yes. Wanda Bizarro, so you think that people who don't conform deserve to get COVID? Well, it's beyond conformity at this point. That's from Terry Osborne. It's beyond conformity at this point because, see, I'm very anti-conformity just as a person in general. It's conformity, that word usually implies that it is something without too great a consequences to yourself or to others that you can choose to take on or take off, whether it's like a style of clothing, whether it's being on Facebook or not being on Facebook, whether it's liking a certain kind of music or something like that. It can expand to the ideological level, of course, and that's another form of conformity or rebellion or whatever. When it comes to basic societal safety and safety to yourself, to your fellow man, because we all have to, we all have to live together. We all have to still have a society at the end of the day, and if we don't have that, then we're just anarchists, basically. And when it comes to like having a driver's license to drive, not giving guns to 5-year-olds and letting them walk down the street, forcing people to wear seatbelts and wear a helmet when you ride a bike, which that's not actually enforced as much as it should be. And then wearing a mask when you're out and about, it's like, that just seems like some. If we're gonna get John Locke up in here, that's like when you need to have some, like, everyone's born into a state of absolute freedom, but in order to have a society, there are those few freedoms that have to be not taken away so much, but like you have to like you don't have to have like the freedom to like kill your neighbor or take his things if you expect to have a society. And same with like mass wearing or license to drive. Like when it comes to like life and death stuff like that, that's really basic and it doesn't like needlessly infringe on anybody's other rights. Then that really shouldn't have to be an issue, and that's part of why the politicizing of mass wearing is so harmful, because that actively causes harm to one's neighbor, because it does actively endanger, because you could be an asymptomatic carrier, and you could be spreading it to people and not know it, and or them too, same thing. So I mean, it's still, and part of why it's so necessary is because there are too many unknowns even now. We have like a somewhat of an idea as far as like, well, how it is currently spreading, but we don't know what it can evolve into or mutate into. Um, but given all these unknowns that are still prevalent, it's like, well, we gotta at least do that basic common courtesy to ourselves and to our fellow man, because without it, we don't have a society. We don't have anything that can function, and that has to come from people willingly saying, "Okay, I'll give up this teeny tiny little mini freedom. It isn't a big sacrifice, so that a great reward can come with it."
So I think her question is more because she put a bunch of questions mark. So I think her
Oh,
question is more or less, do you think that they deserve to get COVID-19 if they don't,
well, after all of the information that has been out there, after well, that's why I said, like, in the early days before anybody knew anything, before this was on the tip of everybody's tongue, before there were signs everywhere, PSAs and all that stuff. Back before all of that, then I would have said no. I mean, I think that would be pretty heartless. But given just how much of that is out there, it's not like this is obscure knowledge or anything. It's not like, you know, I'm not someone that's like, oh, that, you have sex without a condom, therefore you deserve, that you are forced to get married, you're forced to, have a baby or family or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying, like, this goes beyond even that. Like, this is something that a 5-year-old should understand and abide by now. And if you're not willing to do that much, then yeah, you deserve everything that is coming your way. Um, and I mean, I think that honestly, that is being A, realistic, and it's like, and B, it's like, how much of a fairer deal can you possibly get than that? Because, you know, that to me, that just seems like such an obvious cause and effect, that there's not a whole lot of gray area. It's one of the few areas of life, in fact, that there isn't a whole lot of gray area. Because even relatively simple things can have a lot of gray area, but in this case, I think that it's so simple. It's even more simple than having your seatbelt on when you're driving, because not everyone drives. And that's something else to think about. Is not everyone wears a bike, not everyone drives. So people that don't drive, or don't ride a bike, they don't have to worry about a driver's license or seatbelts or a helmet or anything like that. Everybody that comes in contact with another human that they don't know for sure whether they are or are not a carrier, um, and that's almost everyone on the planet, that is their concern. So
Oh, and
it.
I think too is everything is getting a little bit out of control too, or
Oh yeah,
it is out of control.
definitely.
People are acting stupid. We see videos of people acting in Target, destroying this place of masks because they don't want to wear masks. We see people, like literally, being in people's space because they don't have a mask and they have masks and they wanted to put in the mask. Is to the point that is, yes, we want everybody to have a mask and we do want everybody to take care of themselves, but at the same part is, if you can't be everybody's savior neither. If you can only preach, and if whoever doesn't want to listen doesn't want to listen, but you can't put
Exactly.
a mask down somebody's throat. They don't want to wear, they don't want to wear, leave them alone.
But they also have to accept the responsibility
Right,
of what will inevitably come their way, because
right,
it's not like they weren't warned,
right.
and that's the thing in American society. It doesn't matter whether you're left wing, right wing, whatever. Both sides are suffering from this thing, which is that nobody wants to take responsibility for their actions or their inactions anymore, and that is a major problem. Everybody of any persuasion is looking so hard for some external force to blame, when most of the time, at least as far as like something that you're made aware of, if you're not aware of it then that's something else, but like when you've been made aware of it, and especially like this repeatedly over and over again, you've been made aware of it, at some point it's like personal responsibility has got to play a role in this thing.
That you
And
gotta think
that's
too, that human nature and your human DNA, people are they're rebel against what you tell them. If you tell somebody do this, their mother nature, the self person, is gonna be like, I don't want to do that because you tell me to do it.
yeah.
There's a lot of people, they're like that. They're just who they are.
Well,
They're in the
and let me
DNA.
tell you, I am just me being a stubborn, weirdo filmmaker who makes films called Cooking with Human Blood. It's like I am the ultimate, like, especially artistically, I am the ultimate. Oh, you don't like that? Well, guess what? I'm going to do that twice
Oh,
as much.
oh, I know.
So, like, I am completely sympathetic to that on a lot of different fronts. Usually, when it comes to, like, for example, artistically, like that is dealing in make believe. That's dealing in art, not the real world. Uh, and art is meant to illuminate or reflect some important aspect of life that most people aren't thinking about. So, I mean, that's a whole other arena. But, like, when it comes to something that is so basic and is so mutually beneficial, it's like, at a certain point, it's like you can only hammer it home so many times before people have just got to take responsibility for their action or inaction. And, we don't emphasize that anywhere near enough in our society, regardless of our political affiliation or whatever. We don't emphasize that anywhere near enough, because I guess that just this is a modern America where nobody wants to take on a burden of responsibility for anything. And what people don't realize is when you do that for yourself, for others, or whatever, and you do that well, it makes you feel enormously empowered. It's that taking away of responsibility and taking away of efficacy and of being able to kind of own the fruits of your labors, or the consequences of your failures. I mean, that's powerlessness right there. And and it's not even like it doesn't make logical sense. If it didn't make any logical sense, then you'd have a point. But it seems pretty cut and dry here.
Right. Well, we've been about an hour, and my stomach is growling. And
Oh, hold on,
before,
hold on. It says, wearing the cloth mask or the surgical mask does not protect the wearer from the virus. It merely deflects the wearer's droplets from someone else, which is true. And it's something that it's more beneficial than not. It's not foolproof in that, like I said, with the eyes being uncovered and the possibility of the virus floating around in the air in the recycled AC in certain buildings or whatever. Like there was that story how many months ago with Costco or whatever. So I mean, yeah, it's not foolproof, but it's gonna be more effective than not. Same with like wearing a seatbelt in the car. Like, is that gonna guarantee that you're not gonna die in a car crash? No. You
No.
know, having an airbag or not having an airbag, does that guarantee that you're not gonna die in a car crash? No. But does it give you a halfway decent fighting chance? Absolutely. We have the numbers to back that up. But and that's part of why I have the mask that I have because like. It actually does filter the air and it does protect your eyes and it is more heavily sealed and it's a one-time purchase too.
Okay, so next episode, I don't know. This one took what 3 years? Maybe the next one will be another 3 years. No, I'm just playing.
More like 30 years, and then by that time the virus will have become. We will have become one with the virus. It'll just be in our DNA, and we'll have evolved into either higher order or more likely lower order beings by that time.
And then we'll be like, you remember? Did you ever watch what was that zombie show? It was very famous.
There are a couple zombie shows out there.
No, they were like, I don't know how many seasons, like 10 seasons of it. The Walking Dead. They figure out that the virus, the zombie virus, was inside of them all along.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it makes sense as far as like, especially if something gets so widespread, then eventually it's just gonna it's just gonna stay with you for however long. And I mean, for all we know, like whenever they do develop a vaccine, whenever that is, sooner or later. It could be good for this particular strain, but it could be like the flu. Who knows?
Right.
And if it's not this specific strain of coronavirus or a future one or whatever, there are all kinds of other infectious agents that we know of that are out there, or possibly an even worse one that could arise at some point in the future. I mean, those things are ever changing, ever evolving. So that's why I emphasize personal responsibility with just basic things like wash your hands, don't touch things you don't need to touch, don't cover your mouth when you cough. All the like basic things your mother taught you when you were 5, hopefully taught you. Apparently not enough people.
Is weird.
Apparently not enough people's moms taught them that, because otherwise we wouldn't be in this mess.
That is the weird thing, that how many people didn't know how to wash their hands.
I know.
Or how to cover their mouth when they sneeze. When I sneeze, I cover it with I always cover it with my shirt. I always have done that. That's just something that I always done. And then some people are like, "That's so nasty. You're sneezing inside of you." I'm just throwing my own germs to myself. Thank you very much. They're mine. They'll stay with me.
And that's if you do that, then that's possibly even more effective than the vampire cough.
They're my germs. They're going back
exactly.
to me. But
you're gonna get more sick than you already are from yourself. It's like.
But our next show we'll post in the Facebook when it's gonna be. It will, I don't know what topics will be, and then we'll go directly to the topic. This show been all over the place because it was more about talking about us, about the show, what we were going to talk about, and then the coronavirus took over our life in 2020. It took over this show.
you gotta just get that out of the way, because I mean it's beyond the elephant in the room. It's like, this is the stampeding herd of elephants that is tearing the building down. It's like you gotta get that out of the way, just to say, okay, this is the new normal. This is the baseline. Everything that comes after is just icing on the cake.
I think next show you should have your mask on, and I'll go look for my doctor doctor mask, and I'll have it on, not for long, because that really can't let me breathe, and we'll start the show like that.
That'd be great. I mean, and that's the only downside I'll say with my mask. Like, it's very thorough. I think it does the job well, but one thing I'll say, actually two things. One, depending on the weather outside, it can get kind of hot, and also sometimes it can muffle your voice where you have to speak extra loud to make sure people can hear you.
Oh, we'll
Uh,
just start the show, and after that, you take that off because I cannot
yeah,
speak to you with that on.
yeah. But still, better having to speak a little louder than getting sick. So,
Of yourself.
well, yeah, or sick of other people. But although then again, I don't think a mask will protect you from getting sick of other people.
Right. But well, guys, this is all. It went a little bit over, like 30 minutes over the what we were planning, but it was. I hope you guys got really nice information. We'll
Stay safe out there. Wash your
yes,
hands.
wash your hands. Don't touch your face. Don't
Wear a
pick your
mask.
boogers. Don't put your finger in your mouth. Don't put your mouth in your fingers. Don't put your fingers in your mouth. When you're outside, stay away from this area of your body.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time.
Any businesses that aren't following the law, they don't deserve your money.
Right. Bye, guys.
Bye.